Tonight, we begin with a development that US and European officials had feared, tracked, and quietly prepared for. A strike that unfolded not over weeks, but in hours. Hours that reshaped the battlefield. Hours that sent shockwaves through Moscow. Hours that forced world capitals into emergency consultations. What Ukraine did today crossed a line that Russian leadership had hoped would hold. And when that line broke, Kyiv did not hesitate. They responded with precision, discipline, and intent. For months now, there had been signals, not official announcements, not public briefings, just subtle indicators that Ukraine was preparing something unprecedented. Ukraine has been defensive, yes, but it has been methodical in its defense. Its actions followed a certain pattern, a rhythm, almost a doctrine. But what set off alarm bells in Western intelligence circles this week was that the pattern went silent. Analysts who monitor military activity know the indicators: the communication slowdown, the movement of long-range assets, the sudden intelligence blackout, the abrupt pause in public messaging. All of it went quiet. And whenever Ukraine goes quiet, something is about to get very loud. Early Monday morning, NATO-linked monitoring systems detected what they described as coordinated long-range strike activity, including flight paths and launch signatures that had not been observed in many months. These are the kinds of operations Ukraine only executes when signaling something very specific: deterrence, capability, or resolve. Observers didn't know which category this fell into, or whether it fell into all three at once. But what they did know was that Ukraine was changing posture, and when a wartime actor shifts strategy without explanation, even slightly, Washington pays attention. The warning issued by the United States tonight was not normal, it was not routine, it was not symbolic, it was urgent. Officials, after closed-door security meetings, described Russia's situation as volatile, unstable, and most importantly, miscalculated, meaning Moscow had misread Kyiv's red lines. But deterrence only works if the target hesitates. Ukraine did not. In fact, today's response was among the most consequential we've seen in this conflict. Within hours of confirmation, Ukraine launched follow-up operations. These were not conventional responses. These were specialized strike systems, tools Ukraine deploys only when preparing to reshape escalation dynamics. Tonight, Western intelligence sources confirmed that Ukraine launched precision strike on strategic Russian targets, including infrastructure near Moscow that had recently been reinforced for what analysts believe was air defense coordination. Ukraine struck before Russia could reposition. They hit command support nodes. They hit logistics coordination points. They hit staging areas likely preparing to support further Russian operations. In other words, Ukraine targeted the backbone, not the headline assets, the components that would have made escalation operational. This is what made Washington's warning so urgent. Russia's move wasn't symbolic, it was actionable. Left unchecked, it could have expanded the conflict dramatically. Ukraine understood that and responded with force. Not recklessly, not impulsively, but strategically. They didn't strike civilians, they didn't seek spectacle, they hit capability, they hit structure. Here's where the story becomes even more intense. Analysts now believe Russia's latest posture was designed to test Ukraine's resolve after months of grinding warfare. Moscow wanted to see whether Kyiv would hesitate. Instead, the opposite happened. Ukraine didn't hesitate. They escalated with clarity, so decisively that Russia noticed. You don't get the Kremlin's attention easily, but today, Ukraine did. One senior defense analyst, speaking anonymously, described Russia's move as probing behavior, an attempt to regain initiative. Ukraine proved today they remain capable and unpredictable. Their actions were not just bold, they were precisely calibrated, showing that Ukraine is not reacting, they are shaping the fight. As reports continued throughout the day, the scale became clearer. Ukrainian long-range units forced air defense redeployments near Moscow. Drone operations targeted assets activated within the last 72 hours. Cyber-linked disruptions, operating beyond the battlefield, affected systems used to coordinate Russian responses. This wasn't retaliation, this wasn't messaging, this was operational disruption. This was initiative warfare, and initiative is exactly what Russia has struggled to maintain. Remember, Russia thought Ukraine would tire, they thought Western support would weaken, they thought escalation would intimidate. Tonight, the opposite is happening. Ukraine is adapting, support is consolidating, and escalation is being met, not feared. What makes this moment so dangerous and so revealing is that Russia's move came as President Putin faces internal and external pressure. Hardliners want escalation, economic elites want stability, military leadership wants clarity, the public wants answers. That's not strength, that's vulnerability. The U.S. statement, now widely circulated, made one thing clear: Washington will not allow unchecked escalation. Officials called Russia's actions inconsistent with regional stability. Translation: this will not be ignored. Meanwhile, President Zelensky addressed the nation in a firm, measured speech. He said Ukraine will defend itself wherever necessary. He said no city is beyond consequence. And he said this war will not be dictated by fear. Those are not slogans, they are signals. And this wasn't isolated. Alongside the strike, Russian forces increased regional alerts. Allied intelligence noted parallel movements. Cyber activity spiked across multiple fronts. When multiple pieces move at once, something larger is underway. Analysts now see three paths. 1. Russia de-escalates. 2. Russia recalibrates quietly. 3. The most dangerous, Russia doubles down. Today, Ukraine removed the illusion of option 3. They didn't wait, they didn't blink, they acted. This is a test of resolve. Russia wants dominance, Ukraine wants deterrence, the US wants containment, Europe wants stability. All four collide here. Sources now confirm heightened monitoring. They say more movements are being tracked. They say Russia is reassessing. And they say this is part of a broader strategic recalculation. Ukraine is not backing down. Their response, calculated, controlled, and confident, sent a message to Moscow: miscalculate again at your own risk. And a message to allies: Ukraine is ready. As the days ahead unfold, we'll learn more about what Moscow intended, but we already know this: the response was timely, it disrupted plans, and it redefined boundaries. What comes next depends on Russia's next move. If they pause, this moment becomes a warning. If they escalate, the world already knows Ukraine is ready. For the first time in weeks, Russia appears quiet. Moscow is quiet, too quiet. And when Russia is quiet, it means they are thinking. Because tonight, Russia learned something. Ukraine will strike back. Ukraine will strike smart. And Ukraine will not be contained. This story isn't over, but tonight, one thing is clear: the rules have changed.